Just fine. I'm excited about that.
We're live, good. Okay, we're going to start and try to get him in if you can, Allison.
It seems like she's, I don't,
I mean, he was asking if,
If we could see him on Zoom, but he's not even he's not an attendee.
yeah, but that means he's trying. So let's figure out what's the, can you email him, Audra?
Text him.
Correct.
I can text
Well,
him.
it seems like he's in a meeting, like he seems to,
But is he in the right one? That's the question.
right.
I mean, let me text him. He says I can hear you.
Really? Is he one of these? Tell him to raise his hand.
He said he can see us.
Tell him to raise his hand, like via the Zoom.
I can hear you on there.
I can hear on that, yeah. But he's not on the Zoom. I don't know. I'm no expert.
That is so.
Tell him to relog in. Anyhow, we're going to get through that. Let's keep going. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Town of Camden Select Board meeting for April 18th, 2023. We are, as usual, streaming this meeting on YouTube, under the Town of Camden on YouTube. We are also have a webinar link available for those who are remote and want to be on the Zoom webinars attendee. That link can be found on the Town of Camden website, Select Board agenda for this evening, and click on that. Again, procedurally, if you're interested in, first of all, connecting, fine. If you want to make a comment during the meeting, please raise your hand. That is the way to get recognized. It's the same methodology we use for those who are in attendance live tonight. Thank you very much. And with that, I will open the call to order the agenda. The first item, do we have any public input on a non-agenda item? Yes, sir.
Right there.
Hello.
I'm Tom. Push the button.
Yeah.
Working now?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm Tom Zumwalt. I'm a Camden resident and a member of the Save the Falls Committee. And I wanted to talk a little bit about the offer of $11,500 for repairs, short-term repairs to Montgomery Dam. That offer actually was made in January of this year, and the idea was to try to get the area down there looking better before the tourist season. No action was taken at all until 2 months later, so in March of this year, with some encouragement from Stephanie and Tom, we finally got some estimates from the town manager for some work to be done there. Unfortunately, the estimates that came in were for basically rebuilding the dam, almost, starting with $100,000 for a brand new sluice gate and going up from there. So I wanted to make it clear that that is not the kind of thing we had in mind. What we would like to see done there, and I think should be done anyway, is to just do some short-term repairs, relatively inexpensive repairs that will keep the place looking not perfect, but presentable for the time period between now and when the river study and whatever other studies need to be done get done. That could be, probably will be at least 2 years, maybe more. So we were hoping that, well, let me actually divert just a little bit. Actually, one of our prime things that we wanted to see done, the DPW actually came in and with, I don't know if Dave St. Laurent did this or who did it exactly, but they actually managed to get the sluice gate working to the point that water started flowing over the dam again and still is flowing over the dam again. And again, it's not perfect. From what I understand, it's leaking a little bit. The sluice gate is leaking, but there's still water going over the dam. So it's not a perfect solution, but it's a workable solution. And that is exactly the kind of thing we had in mind. And that actually was our first priority, was to see water going over the dam again. Our second and third priorities were to level the lip of the dam so that the water would run over evenly over the entire dam. And the other was just to repair the face of the dam where chunks of rocks and cement and so forth had fallen out. Since the town manager did not bring in that kind of estimate, some people on the committee went out and talked with contractors around town. And we did come up with a contractor, a well-known contractor in town, who was willing to do that work. And it's probably not appropriate for me to give out information about his private bids, or it's not really a bid at this point. But it is a good faith estimate. And this contractor is pretty confident that the work can be done for around $30,000. That would be to level the lip of the dam and to mortar in any missing chunks of the face of the dam. So between what Dave St. Laurent has already done with the gate and that, what could be done by that contractor, would have accomplished most of what we were encouraging the town to do. The only thing left would be removing vegetation from the mill pond and so forth. I know that our $11,500 isn't going to cover $30,000, but I also am fairly confident that if the town wanted to find that money, they could find it. There's already $30,000. I don't know if it's going to be in the budget, but the budget committee recommended $30,000 be put in next year's budget for Montgomery Dam. And if you go back historically and look at the record, you see that money has been budgeted in the past for repairs to Montgomery Dam, and it wasn't spent on Montgomery Dam. Might have been spent on some other dam or wasn't spent at all. Theoretically, that money should still be there because it was appropriated for the dam and wasn't spent. So I think the town could find that money if they wanted. And between what Dave St. Laurent has done with the gate, if the town could find $30,000 or give or take $30,000 to do those things, our offer of $11,500 is still out there. I don't think the town has either accepted or rejected it yet, so that's still in play. That could be used to reduce get rid of the vegetation.
I have to ask you to summarize, please.
Make the dam look presentable for let's call it 2 years until a final decision is made. And I strongly encourage the select board and the town manager to do that.
Thank you very much. Thank you for coming. Other public comment on a non-agenda item?
Jean Brewer, Camden resident. I just wanted to pass out from the comprehensive plan to follow up what Tom was saying. On page 28, the TIF has repairs to the Montgomery Dam, and one particular at the bottom of the page, I have a copy for each of you. It says at this time in 2017, there was $160,000, which includes a second restricted reserve account that contains $30,000 currently earmarked for repairs to the Montgomery Dam at the head of the harbor. So I think there's money to be had for this purpose, and I just want to share this with you. And can
Thank
you
you.
pass them down?
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay.
Any other comments on non-agenda items? Not seeing any hands. We will move on to item 2, which is the approval of board minutes 3, March 7, March 21, and April 4. Oops, I'm sorry. We'll take each one individually. Are there comments on March 7? Beyond, Sophie, you submitted some comments already.
Yeah, I did. I submitted some comments already on March 7, and it was too late because I was traveling. So I don't think everybody has had a chance to look at them. These were mostly edits, but they haven't been added to the packet yet. So I think there's still some work to be done on March 7 and March 21st.
You submitted those comments today.
This afternoon, yeah. So
They just haven't been input. It's up
So
to
I
the
think we
vote. Go ahead, Sophie. I'm sorry, Sophie.
just because there are other issues with the March 21st, I think we should table again the vote on the minutes and bring them back. at the next session, once we have a clear set of,
All three?
at least for March 21st and March 7th. I have no comments on March 4th, on the April 4th.
4th. Other board,
I agree with that.
Allison and
are there any, let's go, just take a pause for a second. Let's talk to April 4th. Are there any comments on April
I
4th?
didn't have any comments on April 4th.
No one?
That looked okay.
I agree. Could I have a motion to approve April 4?
So moved.
So moved.
A motion made and seconded for further discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
4-0. Okay, now to Sophia's suggestion of tabling 7 and 20, March 7 and 21. Is it,
Make a motion that we table the approval of the minutes from March 7th and March 21st to the next meeting.
Second.
motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? The only discussion I have is to make sure that comments last chance to get comments written to Audra, Janice, so that we can make sure we clear this at the next meeting.
Is it like
Oh, it's just
substantive
Wednesday.
changes
Yeah,
that you think
there's
should
some
be made?
There's things that need to be restated because basically the issue we have in
Whoops. Sorry, I just tried to add Tom as a panelist and somehow accidentally chose Randy instead. That
no, there's some edits, but there's also some factual issues that are not correct.
Okay.
And so it lacks clarity, basically.
I mean, there was a couple, I think with the vote on the budget committee person, I'm pretty sure I abstained because I was like, I can't decide between Bob Lawson and Karen Grove. And I mean, it's a ridiculous thing that it's not the end of the world to me if
No,
that's
but it needs to be correct.
it says it's 5-0, but I think it wasn't. But
Right,
that
I
was, I mean, it's just like a couple
like I
minor
said,
things.
I'll work on that.
Well, like I said, this is, we are at April 18th. We've tabled this once already. So any comments we have need to be in agenda this week. If they're not submitted, then they're going to go back on the agenda next time for approval. Tom, can you hear us okay? Yes, thank you. Well, thank you. Good to see you. We have a motion on the table and seconded, Tom. We'll exclude you from this one. It's about the tabling the March 7th and March 21st for some issues. So no further discussion. All those in favor?
Microphone for,
Okay. Okay,
over here so we can put a microphone on.
Somebody wants to holler.
Thank you. Want to hear?
yeah, that helps. How close does it have to be?
Well, nobody really knows how close it has to be, but
It's okay.
it's only for the YouTube later to pick up Tom.
Okay, so we're voting on an issue of tabling the 2 minutes.
So I think I made the motion. I don't think it was seconded.
I heard a second.
Did we hear a second for the tabling?
Allison seconded.
Allison seconded, okay.
Yeah, your ears are still in the air, 30,000
I'm-
feet.
You have
She's
to
doing
be.
great.
I know she is. Anyway,
You
let's
have to work
move.
with me today because
Let's
I
move
landed.
on. All those,
an hour ago.
all those in favor of tabling?
Yeah.
Okay, Tom, 5-0. Thank you very much. On to our third item, which is the consent agenda. On the consent agenda tonight, we have the approval of a Vittler and lodging license for Abigail's Inn, Belmont Inn, Blue Harbor House, Camden House of Pizza, and the Lord Camden Inn. Are there any objections to the items on the consent agenda? Not hearing any of these items are hereby adopted. On to item 4, which are public hearings and on 4 different matters. Just for everybody's benefit, the purpose of the public hearing is for the board to solicit public comment on any one of these matters. We would ask if any person would like to make a comment from the public, that they please identify themselves and please come to the podium, identify your name and residency. Please be brief, courteous, and direct any questions through myself, please. When a public on any one given item has no more conversation or input, I will close the public hearing portion of that matter and revert to the select board. At that point, there will be no more public input from anyone unless one of the board members has a question of a person who has previously spoken. So with that, the first application we have for public hearing is the application of Stuart Smith doing business as Lord Camden Inn at 24 Main Street for the renewal of a Class 5 bed and breakfast liquor license. Is there anyone from the public who wants to address this license request? Not seeing any, I will close the public portion and revert to select board. Select board, any comments or a motion, please?
I make a motion, we approve.
I second.
Motion made and second. Any discussion? All's in favor? Tom, give me a verbal, please, so I can. Aye. Thank you very much. Make sure you're still awake. I'm down there. But by the way, thanks for coming, Tom. The second item is the application of the Schooner Exploration Association doing business as Schooner Appledore to add an additional vessel, Eastwind, to sell alcohol in Camden Harbor. Is there anyone from the public who wants to address this license request? Not seeing any, again, I will close the public portion and revert to select board. Any comments, board, or motion?
So I'm confused by this application
Okay,
because it states that they have the authorization to sell liquor from, is it Booth Bay?
Bar Harbor.
Bar Harbor.
Mhm.
But they want to use that application from Bar Harbor to sell alcohol. So,
I'll let-
alcohol. So that's what I'm confused about because I've never seen this before.
So from what I understand, the Appledore won't be available to run trips in Camden Harbor for a little while this summer. So in that interim period, it would be Schooner Eastwind that will be running off the Appledore's spot.
Yeah.
And so they need permission to
yeah, this,
have their liquor license.
but the
out of
way
Camden.
the license is set up, this is the section that's as an additional vessel. It doesn't say replacement. It says add additional vessel. That's what they filled out.
But
That's
Yes, but I'm just explaining why they've done
Understood.
this.
I understood, but I think the application doesn't comply with what that makes sense, what you just said. And
but
I
if
don't know
it,
how to correct that.
Well, this is state government liquor licensing. It's not town of Camden.
but if the original liquor license.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Well, I guess the confusion is there's an application, excuse me, Sophie,
Yeah.
there's an application in here that should not be in here. Yeah, but
We
no.
do an extra thing. The town of Camden, my understanding, does an extra
Right.
thing.
Yeah.
And so they go through the state process, which is what they've done for Bar Harbor. But since we have an extra level of
Right.
approval, that's what we're going through
Mhm.
right now.
So you think we should have an add a vessel?
I mean, technically it is, we're not going to take away their Appledore approval in order to give them, I mean, we could say we temporarily want the state to revoke Appledore's authority to, but
Can't
really we're just giving the nod to something that the
Wait a minute,
state's
let me-
already done.
Let me get to the application.
And it's a month. It's May
It's a what?
to June. They're only asking for the time that Appledore is not here.
Did I misread that?
So it would be May to June. There's a specific date on there.
Where did you find that? What did you find that, Stephanie?
Um,
I'm looking there. I'm trying to find it too.
Audra, where is it?
Where is it? We're all furiously searching.
Page 84, you mean?
What page is it on, Allison?
Four
54?
pages that I'm looking through.
80.
84, geez, 84.
And this doesn't have anything to do with our schooner and windjammer licensing
No, I understand.
process. No, I'm just clarifying for myself.
No, but I understand. But from a jurisdiction perspective, to me, Booth Bay Harbor is the jurisdiction that should add a schooner to their license,
That's what I think.
not us. We
That's what I
don't.
think.
This is not us. If they're saying we're using the Booth Bay Harbor and we want to transfer it to another schooner, it has nothing to do with Camden.
Well, no,
They're gonna
it
be
does
pulled up
because
at the dock.
it's operating out of Camden Harbor.
Right. The state,
But so when Appledore sells alcohol in Camden Harbor, it does that with the Booth Bay Harbor license, not a
see.
Camden license.
Yeah,
So somewhere there's a discrepancy here. So
I'm not sure that's accurate because we
Not
have
either.
to give
So-
Appledore the permission to sell the license here. Their state license isn't specific to an area.
I don't
It's
think so.
to the vessel.
it's to the vessel in the state of Maine, doesn't
It's to
matter.
the vessel, but they have to say where it's operating
And
from.
each town that they're birthed at
Mhm.
gives them permission. And that's what they're just asking, that they do have a permission in
Mhm.
Bar Harbor.
So May 15th to June 15th.
Thank you.
Some towns don't, is it accurate that some towns don't have a second process? It's just the state license is the state license?
And
Yes.
right. A lot of vessels that go to other states, they just get their state license per vessel there.
Do we also give Appledore a license?
It already has one.
It uses.
It already
okay.
has one.
Okay, fine. So now I
It's one-
understand
it's-
better.
it-
Okay, I
it's,
get
you know,
it. Thank you.
It's 1 month of a license until Appledore arrives in the harbor.
Correct.
I make a motion, we approve.
Second,
Motion made, second. Any further discussion? All's in favor? Tom, thank you, bud. Appreciate it. On to our next item, which would be, let me get back to my agenda, is the public hearing for the, regarding the charter amendments to Article 6, Financial Procedures, Section 6.03, Budget Committee, and Section 6.06, Town Vote on the Budget. Is there in the public that would like to speak to this proposed charter amendment to go on the ballot? Ray?
Ray and Drayson, Town of Camden. Just for the benefit of those in the audience and especially those on virtual attendance, could you just give an outline of what these changes are so that we know what's being discussed?
Okay, just for your information.
They're in the package, but a lot of
Okay.
people don't have the
Okay.
I'm happy to
Audra, would you
paraphrase.
please, Audra? Thank you.
Sure. So the changes to, the changes proposed in the charter would be to Article 6, Financial Procedures. Section 6.03 is the Budget Committee. So the changes would turn the Budget Committee from an elected group to an appointed group. And the reason behind this is that even when we were, doing open floor town meeting, it usually ended in not having enough members to have a quorum, because even if budget committee members were elected during open town meeting, they would drop off before budget meetings. And now that we've moved to a secret ballot town meeting, we're still not getting enough names on the ballot to have a full budget committee or full slate of budget committee members. And the select board ends up appointing members in order to fill out a whole budget committee. So it's really just making the charter align with the reality of how we operate in the town of Camden. So these positions will become appointed instead of elected. And then the next change is to section 6.06, where it talks about the form of budget articles. And the language definitely is permissive. We don't have to label the categories a certain way. And the expense categories are things like general government. So public safety, highways, streets and bridges is another one, health and welfare, leisure services, cemeteries, debt capital contingency. So we do have the flexibility by charter to change those names, but the fact that they're called out in the charter, I just think creates a whole other level of confusion that we don't need. And it definitely, I think, creates the perception that we're locked into those labels for these different categories. So it's just a bit of cleanup.
Any other public comments on this item? And then we'll close the public portion and revert to select board deliberation decision.
I mean, I'm okay with both of these changes, but I also think that the process of what happened this year really speaks to the need for a little bit more of a robust conversation about, what works and what doesn't with the budget committee and the timeline and the way we're doing it. And there's just got to be a way for it to be a little bit more positive for everybody. And so I'd like to definitely revisit that, and also just very briefly take the opportunity to restate how terrible I think it is that we changed the way the budget committee, the way it works. I understand that there were lots of problems with the 21-person committee, but that's something that has gone back in history of our town for really about as long as our town's been in existence. It used to be called the Committee of 21, which was a much better name for it, I think, because it really was just supposed to be a diverse group of people from all parts of the town that weighed in and gave a recommendation on every warrant article. And at some point, we started calling it the Budget Committee. And that really turned it into this idea that only people who are really good with budgets should be on the Budget Committee. And I think that scared a lot of people off. But one good thing was that really high number, I think, forced the town to look outside of itself sometimes. And it was hard to get those 21 people. But a lot of the people that are involved in town government are here because they got asked, like, oh, we really need somebody else on the Budget Committee. That's how I got involved, because I was going to the town meeting and it was like, we don't have enough people. And one of the select board members said, well, I think Allison could maybe do it. And I just think that the fact that there were term limits before and there was this really high number that was needed for a town like ours, that if we're going to be committed to sticking with this town meeting or form of government where everybody, not that we're having that actual town meeting, but where everybody votes on everything, we really do need more people to almost be like forced or somewhat drafted into paying attention to town government. And I think it's just unfortunate that going to a 9 to 11-person committee eliminating, I'd rather have term limits for the select board even, that was one thing they talked about, but eliminating the term limits for the Budget Committee, the whole point was to bring new people in. So I would
All right.
like to revisit that at some point, but
So,
I'm fine with
but-
changing it for now.
Back-
Allison, in 6.03, number 3, it says members shall serve staggered 3-year terms. So there still is term limits. Do you mean that they're only allowed to serve,
3 years.
members may serve for 3 consecutive terms? You think that should be changed?
Oh, does it say that? 3 consecutive? Oh, well, I guess it was not that they eliminated term limits, but.
Right,
Or they.
3-year terms.
It used to be that you couldn't serve consecutive terms.
3
And now
years.
you can go for.
Yep.
9
Serve
years.
3 consecutive terms.
And
Correct.
that I can understand is fine, I can get over that part of it, because I do think there's a benefit to institutional knowledge and people that have been on the committee for a while. But just in conjunction with it lowering that number so much, I just think we're missing the point of what the Budget Committee was. It wasn't financial gurus to be sitting down and crunching the numbers. It was just also to get more people involved. And
It's
I just-
11, it's not 9.
Well, wait a minute, we got to stay on whole
yeah,
course here.
That's just, we're not
we're-
going to fix that today.
No, I
Okay.
agree with a lot of the
I
comments.
actually was thinking you might be making
That's what I
Ooh,
thought.
that would be brave of me to actually,
that's why I thought you were bringing it up.
I feel like that would be.
Wanted to talk about it.
I guess put the feelers out. Should anybody want to follow up on that, then
No,
absolutely,
no.
I would be.
I think there's a lot of work needs to be done as our first year, but to the matter at hand, are there any recommended changes by the board or not on the proposed 2 sections that are in this charter amendment item for the ballot?
Does it say anything anywhere about this committee interest form? What is the
It
process
does.
for
It
appointing?
does.
Yes.
Yes, it says it right in there.
That's something that I think needs to be taken out, because getting people, sometimes you just need to get people to agree, and asking them to apply to be on the Budget Committee is just, it's just another barrier. I just don't like it. I'd rather just put off all of this and have a more robust discussion, but it's
Well,
not
I
a
think
hill I'm
having
going to die on.
people, but I think having people apply keeps it from
Yeah.
saying, well, I like so-and-so,
Right.
and so let's just put his name down.
And remember, if they don't
Just
apply,
the number was high enough before that wasn't really an issue. We were happy to have people. It wasn't
Well, if they
It
don't.
was more like you didn't like.
We
somebody in
wound
front of
up
the
on the
budget
current charter this year of having to appoint people because we didn't have
Right.
people to go to elections. So that was broken. So we're trying to fix that by applying. Now, if they don't apply, we still have to appoint them. So this
Mhm.
is
The
a,
nominating committee was actually a good thing, but people that were responsible for recruiting new people, they just never quite ended up with enough people.
Mm.
And then the select board would step in and say, okay, I found 4 more. But it's just a comment I wanted to make, not,
That you
That's
want to
fine.
change?
I want 21 people back on and I want to call it the committee of 21. But I
Is
don't know if that's
that-
too radical for,
Is that a motion?
yes.
I mean, I do think this is the first year we've gone
We should have
through
talked
the,
before.
the process using the amended charter. And I do think that, you know,
I agree.
it's kind of, and we didn't have a chance to make these changes in time for town meeting because we were in the middle of it while we had to notice everything. So I do agree that there's a lot that we need to relook at and change. And luckily we have, you know, we can make these changes now and it's going to set us up fine
I
for the
agree.
year ahead of us,
I
but we
agree.
can also make other changes in November.
Yep.
So that by the time
Yep.
budget season rolls around, we've got a process that is more
Right,
workable.
right. I would agree.
Okay.
This is the first bite at
I mean, it's
an
good
apple that we can
comments.
take many bites at.
Yep.
It's just sometimes, you know, how
So
we
I-
do things, we say we're going to do that, and then
I-
because we've
I-
solved this one little problem, then we never go
Right.
back to
Well,
fix the
I
rest
heard a
of it.
motion. Do I hear a second? Motion doesn't carry. To the recommendations, do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Please.
Make a motion to approve as written.
Do I have a second?
I second.
Motion made and seconded. Further discussion? Tom, all those in favor? 5-0. Thanks, Tom. Thank you very much. To our last item on the public, to the last item on our public hearing, we would take public comments on any of the, well, I forget the exact number of warrants that we have. A warrant package, by the way, we were on the table, I believe that. And I will,
There's one here.
yeah, and there's one here too, because I have
I
extra.
have,
Now
I
it
have
doesn't
the
have one.
electronic copies. If somebody needs a copy, come and grab mine.
Okay, I guess they don't want. Okay, so I'm not going to, there's a number of articles that are relatively standard such, and by the way, if you want, I can summarize. Article 1 is standard. It's about electing a moderator to preside at meetings. And by the way, as I go through these, I'm assuming that nobody wants to speak to them, but if you do, just stop me. That's fine. Yeah, well, yeah, go ahead, Rick. Go ahead.
Reintroducing again. Is this the public hearing portion of it? Or
Yeah, this is public hearing.
Okay, so you're going to do article by article?
Yes. Yeah, well, I'm trying not to spend a lot of time on an article. I don't know if anybody wants to speak to the presiding officer at the town election. Article 2 is basically will be the election of a 3-year term for select board members on the ballot of those who have already submitted papers, and also for 2 directors of the main school administration district for 3-year terms. Article 3 and 4 are related, and they,
Yeah, Allison is our.
what's else? Go ahead.
This doesn't have to also be an opportunity to get rid of the overseers of the poor terminology. Is that?
I
state? Is that a state thing that-
I don't know. I think it is, Allison. I think it is.
An opportunity or a
Yes.
state thing?
It's an opportunity. I believe it's an opportunity.
Is it an opportunity to get rid of, I mean, it's just,
I hate the term too.
it's really
I think-
odd.
I'll have to look, but I think that's actually how the statute reads, but I'll take a quick look.
I feel like I've been told that before, but
Really?
should an opportunity arise,
To
and whether
eliminate
it's
it.
our charter or
Yeah.
just this.
Yeah, I don't know.
It doesn't make sense to people and it's,
Not in today's terminology.
yeah.
I would agree. If it does, Bill, we can have that changed or eliminated. But that's just, this is the public hearing portion, first of all. And when we get to our discussion, that's the
Oh,
next item.
Sorry.
That's okay. Article 3 and 4 are related, and they're both related to the marijuana changing ordinance for zoning ordinance to reflect the zones and restrictions on a possibility of a retail marijuana in the town of Camden. Anybody from the public who wants to speak to either or both of these two? Ray? Yes, Ray.
And the way this is worded,
Yes, Ray.
I thought it was, the application was for a maximum of 2 shops. Is that stated in this at all? And if it is not stated in this, how does it get can you get 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 marijuana shops in
It
town?
says a total of 2 locations, Ray.
Right on
First
the
sentence.
second line
First
under
sentence,
Article 3.
First line. It says, shall the town amend the zoning blah, blah, blah for adult use in a total of 2 locations, which must be located within the blah, blah, blah zones.
Do you think there's any chance that that could be misinterpreted as like location in a vague general?
It's changed from what was in the packet then.
No, the packet is a memorandum. That's the warrant.
This is the warrant.
The packet is a memo explaining.
No.
No, that's a lot of people are.
It's a lot of people.
Right.
So if you want the language, yeah.
Ray, I'm sorry, there's confusion.
No, I went back
All
and
right.
forth as well.
Okay, no public comment on the Articles 3 or 4.
Well,
I
public,
feel
you
like
said,
it was going to be easier if we go and make our comments now, or, because I don't have a lot of them, but it might,
Well, it depends, I don't see a lot of time on public comment, to tell you the truth.
okay, it's just,
So
are we
I
going to
just
go
wanna
back and go individually through each one?
Absolutely, absolutely.
On the warrant, I thought in the discussion with the planning board meeting, sorry, Chris Nolan, that that there wasn't going to be the select board recommends piece.
That's,
My comments.
that's a comment we'll be discussing when the.
can you
select board gets to
restate your
discuss.
name and where you
You've had-
are for online?
Sorry, I'm Chris Nolan, Town of Camden. But yeah, I was just curious about that.
Yeah.
And so I guess this will be obvious that people can vote yes or no. Is that somewhere in there? Written?
The actual ballot, this is just the language. This is not the ballot
Right.
format. The ballot, you mean the ballot saying yes or no?
No, never mind. If that's,
I may be misinterpreting your question, Chris.
you're probably right. I was just looking at this to say,
What
what are they approving, you know?
Yes or no? Yes or no?
It would be kind of nice sometimes if
Hit a
if
ballot.
what we actually looked at was the ballot format.
Yeah.
Okay.
You're right, I mean, you're right that
Yeah.
we go through and we approve this, but then I get in there and it's, it's been put into ballot format. and,
Oh, okay,
You know,
very good. That was all.
Thank you, Chris. The Article 5 is the transfer of property on Rollins Road, which I believe we have a typo on, if I'm not correct. Would you like to make a comment on that, please? Thank you.
Hi, everybody. I'm Heather Rogers. I'm a resident of Camden, and I also work at Coastal Mountains Land Trust, and we're grateful for the opportunity to work with you guys on this property on Rollins Road. I did notice, I believe it's a 4.5 acre lot and not 9.5. So,
Thank you.
if anyone has any other questions. Yeah.
Do you have any other comments on it? No?
I went there and I love it.
Yeah,
Yeah. We're just really grateful for this opportunity.
thank you for the correction.
Thank you. Yeah.
Article 6 is the street opening license, which is basically the regulations for anybody that opens our roads and the restrictions and criterion for the town of Camden. Do I have any public comment on this article? Article 7, business licensing. Audra, could you just give her a brief one for the public too? So this is a kind of a convoluted one.
Yes, so we have 9 different types of business licensing. So it's everything from the licensing of taxi cabs, who we have here tonight, to vitular lodging licenses and a lot of other licenses that we don't see normally. And they're in different chapters within the Camden Code. And so this would consolidate them into one chapter. And it would also reduce a lot of the sort of questions that are stated in the actual ordinance that need to be included in an application. I know over the years, there's been a lot of comments about, some pretty intrusive questions for things like vitulers license, things like what's your immigration status and were you honorably discharged from the military? Things like that, that maybe at one point in Camden's history were very useful for the select board to know before licensing a business, but at this day and age, probably not as relevant. So a lot of that has been pulled out of the actual ordinance. There's still questions that the select board, who is the licensing board, could choose to ask and have on an application. However, you're not obligated to by ordinance. It would streamline the renewal process. And the last thing it would do would allow for the creation of entertainment districts and common consumption areas in those entertainment districts. So it's really just trying to consolidate and simplify our business licensing process across every business in town that currently needs to be licensed.
Is there any public input or questions on this one? Not seeing anyone. Move on to the item we just discussed, Article 8, which is the charter changes regarding the budget committee we just discussed. This is the item for which we'll vote yes or no. Good question, Chris, on the approval of that change to the charter. The next few, just a brief history for anybody that is concerned. In the past, when we had open town meetings, public in the Opera House, we voted on a number of standard articles because we're voting in a secret ballot now on paper. These are all on the paper ballot. So Article 9 through, actually 15, but they're all of that ilk. For example, I will just summarize them for you. But again, anybody has any comment, please just raise your hand on any one of them. Article 9 basically states it's the dates for taxes due, October 15th, April 15th. Article 10, to allow the tax collector to accept prepayment of property taxes with no interest to be paid on same. Shall the town vote to authorize the select board and the treasurer on behalf of the town to apply for and accept grants, gifts, again, a standard policy that we've had. Article 12. Shall the town vote to authorize select board to dispose of tax acquired property, the only exception being the tannery? Steve, you have a comment on this one?
Yes.
Mr. Gold.
Stephen Gold, Grove Street. First of all, I'd like to say that I fell into the Ray trap and read the abbreviation online instead of this. But
Sorry.
in doing this, I'm glad to see that you followed tradition.
Yeah.
My only comment is, I think it's time to drop Article 10 reference.
10.
That was like now 15 years ago.
This is the very, this is the prepayment of property taxes. You said Article 10, you
This
said.
is about the
No,
tannery
the Article
property.
10 from like a long time ago.
I don't mean Article
Right.
10. I mean the reference to must be sold in accordance with Article 10
Oh,
from
He
2008.
means 2008, Article 10.
sorry, Steve.
Totally
Okay.
confused there.
We've all made mistakes tonight.
You're speaking about the guidance.
Right.
Yeah.
Because the types of projects that may come up, the suggestions from the community, which were strongly pointed out at last year's election, that, we may be in a new era. And I think to do this, to keep this up there, just gives people excuses to lean back on something instead of looking at what might be some great new proposal.
I see. So basically you're suggesting that, or discuss that we should consider removing the requirements of Article 10
Yes.
in this draft. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Let me underline that before I
So we
forget it.
would drop, so after it says Coastal Mountain Land Trust Declaration recorded book and page 81, period. And then we'd get rid of the rest of that.
Sentence.
Yeah, so the shall be disposed of subject to all of that would be removed.
And
So does everybody know what that is?
No,
And most people don't know
Well,
what that is when they vote on this.
Read the whole part that would be removed.
please.
Okay.
Well,
So
the
what,
guiding principles.
what Steve proposed would be, so it would say the book 4083, page 81, and then it would be period.
Yeah,
And what would be removed as shall be disposed of subject to the requirements of Article 10 of the town warrant from the annual town meeting held on June 10th, 2008. And also the Apollo Tannery property can only be disposed of by town vote of the town meeting. So,
Yeah,
okay,
I was
so,
gonna- I was gonna-
yeah,
It would stop
sorry.
at 2008.
So book page 81, and then we would put the Apollo Tannery property can only be disposed of by vote of the town meeting.
Yeah, I didn't think Steve was recommending.
No, I didn't think so either.
Talk about mistakes. Anyway, okay, that's consideration. Thank you, Steve. Article 13 is a discussion of the select board can dispose of personal property pursuant to the town's purchasing regulations. Again, there's been a standard for years, I don't know if you, and which has a market value, by the way, of less than $3,000. Article 14, which is the town shall vote to authorize select board following a public transfer to transfer an amount of not to exceed 10% of the unexpended balances from any budget category. Basically, this is a standard, but it doesn't allow us to take 50% from one account and use it for another. We're not allowed to do that by this article. We're only allowed to play within 10% of a line item budgeted amount. Article, anyway, those have been for years on our town meeting we've had in the Opera House. Now, on Article 15 is related to the budget, actually. It is to show the town vote to appropriate $4,904,451 from non-property tax revenue sources to be used in reducing the property tax commitment for the expenditures in the following article for 2023-24 fiscal year. Basically, this, I got too many blank pages in here. What am I missing? I'm missing something. I'm missing a page.
It's there.
This is the article before the budget, by the way. And basically what this is there in our budget document, it lists where this income is coming from. Some of it's coming from undesignated reserves is listed. Some of it's coming from other sources. Again, I don't have the book in front of me, but it totals just a tad over 4.9 million that allows us to net the budget in Article 16.
So I am confused by the amount of 4.9 million to reduce the property tax commitment.
Correct.
That's not the unassigned, it's different from spending from the unassigned fund balance. It's just allowing us to use the revenue that
It's all the revenue that we,
fees and all that
Yeah.
stuff.
Including the unassigned fund balance, the 900,000 that we.
Yes, it
you know,
includes
the
that.
blue page in the budget book
Yeah,
where it
okay,
has
so
all the
now I get it.
revenues.
Okay, I think the
Yeah.
wording is confusing.
All right.
It's terrible.
Yes.
But there's
I
no
Property
solution.
tax revenue, because there is tax revenue there. There is property tax revenue in it.
Old property tax.
Oh,
revenue.
yeah, that's where the undesignated fund came from. But this is the purposes for public comment. I'm trying to explain it so anybody who wants to get more clarification, that's what you're here for, or anybody wants to raise their hand.
I'm also part of the-
Steve Gold,
Yeah, me too.
Since this is a public hearing,
yes?
and the next step is that you're going to adopt the warrant, does that mean you can't discuss and consider the recommendation I just made?
No, of course
No,
we.
he says we get to.
Oh, we absolutely will. Absolutely. But we're talking about Article 15. Are there anybody, Ray, you want to say something?
I had a question about 16, but it's probably related to 15 also, okay? And the way this is worded and everything, what happens if the voters say no to both 15 and 16? It's really not spelled out here as to, does it mean the budget committee recommendation is accepted?
No.
No, well, what is?
You don't have a budget.
Why isn't that stated in here? Because I think a lot of people are going to vote and say, well, the budget committee recommended something better, something more that I like. And if I vote no, that means that's adopted. And I think it should really be spelled out on the warrant so people know what they're voting about.
Okay.
That was,
Well, are there,
It will.
well, we can discuss that in a minute. Is there anybody here who would like to speak to 15 or 16? 15 again is the amount of revenue income that was approved by the select board and a number of items to reduce the tax effect. And by the way, if the 4.9 million is not approved and the 16 is approved, then the 11 million, roughly $400,000 budget goes up to 15 plus million dollars because the revenue is not there.
Not there, yeah.
No, that's just a math thing, right? But to your point about clarity, I get it. I get it. Anybody else who would like to speak to the budget from the public? Okay, that's the last of the warrants that are recommended for the June ballot. So I'll close the public hearing and move
Start again.
move to the approval of the town meeting warrants items for June 13th, 2023. Again, the board, please stop me at any point. I got your overseers the poor thing. I don't think we can resolve that here at this point in time.
how did you just got done telling me it was an opportunity?
Well, I think Bill said he had to check something, no? Overseers the poor on Article 2.
Board of Overseers is sufficient now.
Overseers, we don't need to add the poor. Okay.
So one of the changes then will be to change, delete of the poor and insert board of before overseers, correct?
Wow, that is better.
Is that better?
The little things.
Well,
that
we
keep
got
us all
one.
going.
We got one. Two, again, to the,
Are we
Right.
trying to just make it sound like we don't have poor people?
I think it's a great, I think it's a great,
Overseers of- I don't want it to seem like
it's like somebody's
any
watching
of
the
us
poor.
think that we are overseeing poor people. That just
I,
seems-
to me,
Or anybody really, but.
I
Board.
just haven't heard this conversation happen before, so I just wasn't sure
No,
why
that's a good question, Stephanie.
it was. a problem.
well, we have a trust fund and we have mechanisms we have a general assistant fund and things like that. So we actually do that.
Yeah,
Yeah, but
Yeah, I mean, that's a
It's not-
separate thing, but we're not like overseers of the poor. That, it used to be like the Camden Select Board would sit here and be like, you're going to the poor farm over here and we're going to make sure.
Yep.
It was really, they'd send people to the insane asylum. There's all
I
kinds of,
agree.
it's just not really what we do
I
today.
agree. Two, Articles 3 and 4, which are obviously related, board discussion comments, not the least of which is the comment that may have been comments made about select board recommends on these articles.
Yeah.
I think that's confusing.
It's
that there's
confusing
no-
because
I think it should just be omitted.
I think.
For this one, because-
I agree, but my concern is we need to be consistent.
I don't think we do.
what if we just say select board voted?
On all of them?
Yep.
No, because it's
fine
actually a
with me.
different thing. For most of them, we really are providing a recommendation
No, I'm not.
on the budget.
Nope. I recommend, no, I think voted on to me is the same thing. I'm not telling anybody how to vote. I don't want to tell anybody how to vote. Bill has made a comment a number of times about, he cautioned about not putting select board recommends, as I recall from the past, because of this complications that occur. So
And people begged us to put it on
I agree.
because it's,
I
they
agree.
like
but
to know a little bit where there's controversy or where there's.
Well, but if we voted on it, the same will show controversy too.
We voted here, we had a discussion about
I mean,
voting to put it on a ballot. And we were recommending putting it on a ballot.
mhm,
But it does get confusing for people if,
don't leave it off.
I think on this, I don't think we should take it off for every single article, but I think for this one, we just.
Let me
take it
hear,
off.
let me hear from Tom.
Thank you. I like this suggestion. I believe it was maybe Jordan Cohen on Chestnut Street wrote us an email and made a suggestion that we say the select board voted to present this to voters in some, I'm paraphrasing. I think that's a more appropriate verbiage.
Not time. Not time. Let Tom finish. You finished, Tom?
Right.
Okay, thank you, Tom. Go ahead, Sophie.
So if it gets placed on the warrant, it means that we voted to place it on the warrant.
Correct.
Right.
But the fact that it is on the warrant means that the select board voted to put it there. So I don't think it's going to help people if we say that the select board voted to put it on the warrant because it's redundant.
So I have to go through each article. The ones I don't recommend, I have to change it?
I think this is the only case
The only
where
case
putting
was
it
one.
on, there was a vote to put it out to voters. I mean, our literal job is to recommend a budget. So if you didn't vote for the budget, if you're voting for the budget,
I would say the
but now saying
recommendation,
that you're not recommending it, it's,
I think the recommendation, the select board recommends the budget is the only one I would keep. The other ones, we don't need them.
we got a lot of feedback. So they took this away for a little while. And
Long time.
a lot of people felt like they were just in the dark and were asking to put that back because the select board recommends, because then you have the
Mhm.
2, 3, or it gives them there's so much information on here that they don't want to have to spend hours researching whether we should set the tax rate at 7.3% or, the interest rate at this or that.
Mhm.
If that's not they think, oh, that might be some kind of a slip in thing that's a controversial thing. That's why they voted down the change to the number of signatures. We tried to change it so that you only needed 25 signatures to get on the ballot. And the Camden Charter used to require 75.
Right.
And we tried to just change that. And
And we
in order
did.
to comply with state statute, and people voted it down
Mhm.
because they thought it was, they got confused.
Well, again, there are articles on here that I wouldn't, how I vote may not be what I recommended for the voters to, so what's that?
People want to know. I think you should speak up. If you see something on here that you think people shouldn't vote for, then you should.
No, oh, no, I'm not, oh, no. No, I'm not
You
gonna,
can do it.
I'm not gonna sit here and say which ones voting is my personal privilege. And it's not a matter of the public.
I think that when we get elected, we kind of.
I'm sorry, no, how I vote, who I vote for select board, I'm not.
That's a little different.
No, it's not a little different. We're muddying the waters, and I agree, it is confusing, but it's also when the select board recommends 5-0, and people need to know that, then why don't we just go to a town council form of government? It's the same thing. If you say people are influenced by our vote, then
I think we just want to be clear with people.
I agree. We voted, I
They
think,
basically want to know where there's controversy and where there isn't, where they should look harder. They want to know, okay, this is all like just boilerplate stuff, and they want to know which of these things should I take a harder look at. We're trying to make it a little bit easier for people that don't have,
yeah. I see that.
6 months to
We should
research.
take kind of an unofficial vote to see
what?
do we leave it as is?
Oh,
I
my,
think the only ones,
Wants to take it off? Who wants to have it on there?
well, I agree with that. So Stephanie, sorry, other S. But I just think that this is more pervasive than that. It covers the whole warrant. Well, why?
Well, that's what I mean.
Oh, I see.
I mean, I think
Oh,
we
I see
should.
what you mean.
I
I
think-
see. Let me take Tom's comment first.
The best example I can think of is the marijuana dispensary legalization. That's an issue where several members of the board made it clear that their intention was to put it to the voters. It wasn't that they necessarily in favor. They just said that this is a big enough issue that they felt that it should be sent to the voters.
Mhm.
And I think that that's a perfect example of why this should be more clear. We are not, when we send things to the voters, we are not necessarily recommending them. We are just saying sometimes we're saying this is such an important issue that it should be decided by the entire legislative body, which in this case in Camden is the voters. I think I agree with Allison. I'm having a little trouble hearing everything, but I think that we should change the wording on it so that the citizens are clear that we're pushing this forward to them rather than necessarily giving a heartfelt recommendation.
I agree with you. It's just, I feel that way about other warrants. We have to go through each one and decide which ones we change and which ones we don't.
Yeah, I think it should be blanket, all of them. All of them should say select board recommended to forward
Voted.
this to the voters. Or I
Voted.
think Mr. Cohen wrote it in good language. I agree with the way he wrote it.
So I think what we're really having a disagreement about here is whether I want to remove that language about the recommendation for just this one warrant
Yeah, yeah.
article. And Bob is saying that if we're going to remove for that one, we should remove the select board recommends language on every single warrant article. Is that,
I agree with Bob. It should be consistent. Whatever we do, it should be consistent for all of them.
Well, Jody, did you have a comment? You had your hand
I
up.
get so many comments from people that are going to be confused again, but.
Bill also has a comment.
Mr. Attorney.
Just so you know, the way Title 30A, Section 2528 reads, which is the section that addresses secret ballots, the only requirement when there must be a printed recommendation of the municipal officers is when it deals with an appropriation of money. So the budget article does have to have both the select board and the budget committee recommendations. Some of you were talking about removing it totally, but that one would at least have to remain. This statute is silent as to whether or not you wish to make recommendations on other articles.
Thank you. Thank you. Again, I think we're back to that, to Tom's suggestion that we put it on everyone. I have no problem with that at all. I think we start splitting hairs, and each of us individually has ideas and votes the way they vote in the ballot box. It may be different than they're sitting here to our point. We're residents as well as select board members. So do I have a consensus then that all should be changed or not?
No,
Change to what?
we better vote on it.
Change, okay, we can do that. Good change to select board voted 4050410.
If you need a motion, I'll make a motion.
Are we going to take any comment or
No,
why wouldn't we take comment?
Steve, we're not supposed to, but go ahead, please. We already had a discussion.
It's fine, it's fine.
Go ahead, Steve, go ahead. Steve, go ahead. Go ahead.
The warrant begins with an introductory statement and instructions. So this general comment that you'd like to make, why not just in that introductory paragraph say, these warrant articles are articles that the select board
And
voted to put on the warrant?
Same thing. I agree.
You're talking about some yes, some no.
No, we have to vote on it, and that decision will make it. But your suggestion is a simpler way of doing the same thing. I could live with that also. I don't care which way, but Stephanie made a motion to change them all to select board voted and by the number, correct?
Correct.
Do I have a second?
And you want to put select board voted and the,
And the
No.
500, yeah.
that's what you want to
So
do?
not recommends,
Yeah.
but voted.
Yeah,
Oh,
subtle.
So the only, but
That's
except the
historically
budget,
how
where we
everything's
need to
been
have a
done.
recommendation, as Bill said.
okay. Well, I thought you wanted to take every single thing off about the vote.
No,
The-
no. I think it's
You
fine.
just want to change the word recommends to voted. Well, we're not as far.
I didn't
different
think we
as-
were. Motion made. Do I have a second?
They-
I'll second to force the vote. Further discussion? All's-
For a while, we did take, there was none of that.
We took it
And there
all
was
out.
tons of public
All-
comment that,
All agree.
All those agreed?
I want a little more discussion here. I just read the email, and the language that was suggested in the email says recommended to put to a town vote. 4-1, or 5-0, or 3-2. Recommended to put to a town vote 4-1. I think that's appropriate language. It's very clear.
To me, it's 6, 1, half dozen the other.
I don't know, but
That's fine,
I mean,
Tom.
I just have a.
If you want to
motion on-
amend the motion to that, that's fine with me. I don't know about the other board
Right.
members, but
I'm just keeping
That's
my
okay.
motion
I-
to select
I
board.
would
vote.
amend the motion to say that the language shall say recommended
I
to
already
put to a
have a
town.
motion on the floor.
Select board recommended to put to a town vote.
We already have a motion
I
on the
need to
floor
think
that says
about that
voted.
more.
So I don't disagree with voted and with having the numbers. I think
we
adding,
can modify the motion if Stephanie wants to do that.
right, but it's fine.
I mean, I'm keeping my motion. Select board voted on all articles with the numbers of how they voted.
Except the budget. Because it's
The
the same
budget
thing.
has
I
to be.
second. I
yes.
second.
All those in favor? Tom?
Yeah, I don't see that as more clear than, I see that as more muddy than
All right.
what
Well,
I recommend.
Tom, but I assume you're voting no, Tom, correct?
No.
Okay, thank you. So just to be clear, for all of the articles, it will say select board voted with the number of the select board vote with, now, there was an exception on the budget. Then we'll get that in a minute. Okay. So that'll be on all. So again, back to board, the issue of Articles 3 and 4, which is the marijuana warrant. Are there any questions, comments, recommended changes?
So the only question I have, and it came to a few people who asked me that question, is whether that article would be amenable to ranked choice voting,
To what?
to ranked choice.
No,
No.
no.
So you vote
We
yes.
cannot, no, we cannot do ranked choice voting.
Okay.
Nope.
Not sure what that would accomplish here, but
It's a question people have asked me. I mean, this is
I would
not
just-
my question. I'm just.
We don't
you know,
do it.
like-
no, I mean, for some of
I think it
them,
would be interesting,
I think it's a reasonable conversation for like the candidate elections in the future. It would take a charter change.
That's the issue. We'd have to take it, it would be a charter change.
Charge change. Okay.
And also, we don't have a program that can do ranked choice voting tallying.
Okay. So no other comments on the marijuana
Like the
write-up?
voting machines can't do it?
No, it's like an algorithm that gets sent to the Secretary of State's
correct.
office.
That's
It's
correct.
complicated.
It is.
No, I have no fact.
Okay.
Article 4, under the note,
Yes.
second sentence, there is only one change for Article 3. In this Article 4, the setback for adult use marijuana retail stores from the boundary line for daycares, keep going on till the end of that, shall be required to be a minimum of 1,000 feet. I feel like that should just be expanded to include,
There's pages in here.
shall be required to a minimum of 1,000 feet, including only zone, I think it's B3.
P3.
I think that should be added in because I think the wording that says there's only one change is slightly, it's not wrong, but it's not 100% correct if we don't add the B3 zone because it does, that 1,000 feet eliminates 2 zones.
Exactly. It should
So
be
that-
clear. Yeah.
That 1,000 feet, I just feel like it should say.
I
Not
think
necessarily.
the reason it reads as it is because you're thinking about actual physical locations of daycare, schools, but they may not always be
Yeah,
there.
no, it should be there. Yeah.
So it's really about 1,000 feet, 1,000 feet, 1,000 feet. And whatever knocks that 1,000 feet out because it's already there is sort of happenstance right now. And because we could get in a weird situation if a school or a daycare closed,
Makes sense.
And
you don't have consistency with the intent of the article. So
Yeah.
in other words, I understand your sort of pragmatic look at, well, there's stuff there now, so really it doesn't matter because you can't have it. It's more than 1,000 feet, but we don't know that all those places that qualify for the setback will be there in the future.
Yeah, it does make it is difficult when you're trying to put a peg in the sand on a certain date. And because I agree with Stephanie, it can be very confusing to people because as it stands today, the only zone that would work with Article 4 is B3. That's the only zone that would work today. But if something were to move in the future, then the other zones could open up.
It's so hard because
It
like
is-
it's
it
the
is,
wording
it
isn't,
is.
it isn't great, but I also don't know what the alternative is. I was trying to think about a way to say, one of them could refer to the state's sort of template guidelines, and then one of them could refer to, the town's power to reduce that. But I couldn't figure out a good way of,
Okay, I don't
I would
know.
like it just to be more clear about referring to what the state rules are and asking voters whether they want to make that,
Yeah,
but I can't figure out a better way to do
I
it than what we
don't- I-
have now. I don't think.
I'm kind of nonplussed by it. I don't have an answer.
I think it's the type of explanations we can give when we go through the warrant in the public meeting and make sure that people understand that.
Yep,
But because of uncertainty in the future, I mean, I think it's part of the education and that we need to do a better job at this, but
Right.
putting it in the warrant might be difficult.
It was just
And we
the
can
no
always-
part that I
Yeah.
was like,
No,
Yeah.
but now having that,
Yeah, it's kind of,
Understand
it's
that.
complicated, but I think explaining it is a good thing. On to then, I'm sorry, Allison, who we have? Yes, sir. You have to get up here, please. They can't hear you over there, unfortunately. And we want to know your name so we can throw rocks. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Aaron Meal. I'm a Camden resident. What happens if both of those passes? What happens if 500 and 1,000 both pass?
The second one, sorry.
then it doesn't matter.
The way the article is worded, it says, in the event that Article 3 is not
Doesn't.
adopted by the voters.
Thank you.
Good question, though. On to,
I know, I've had this question like many times.
on to Article 5, which is which was, there is one clarification, thank you.
So,
So, in the
no,
note-
no, because
What?
I've looked at the property card. It is 9.5 acres.
Oh.
Yeah.
It's a big one.
Really?
I got the property card right here if you want to look at it.
I
Heather's
mean,
like, yes.
Well,
I thought we added 4.5.
why don't you just change it to the subject lot on Rawlins Road? Because you
Sure.
already have the tax bank. You know. So change the note to the subject lot on Rawlins Road.
Oh, it just needs to say Rollins. There's a missing N.
Oh, it's another typo.
Rollins.
Rawlins Road, the subject lot on Rawlins Road. Okay, that change will be made. To Article 6, which is a street opening license. Board questions, comments on the wording? Okay. To Article 7, business licensing, as Audrey described earlier, the questions or comments on it. Board.
So the vision, just that, the acreage, the vision property card says 9.5, but the CAI property card says 4.5.
There we go. So it's somewhere in
I
between.
don't
Well,
know.
we've clarified that, so. But good-
More.
Good catch. No comment on business licensing? Okay, then we have Articles 8, which is the previously discussed language on the budget committee and the vote on the town, the budget of the charter. Any comments on that one? I think we kind of killed that earlier. Article 9,
But so Article 8, we don't have any,
well, we don't on a bunch of them. We'll get to that. Did the bunch, you're talking about select board recommends?
right.
They should have. That should be,
We voted on this tonight.
well, we did.
I get it. So
Individually?
So it-
Yes.
We,
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to
Oh.
put what your vote is, you
Yeah.
need to vote on them individually.
let's vote on, did I miss any before this? I don't think so. Okay, so let's go,
Vote on Article 5.
let's go back to Article 5. Yeah,
Yeah, 5-0.
no, it has 5-0. Article 7 has 5-0. Article 8 has nothing.
Vote on it since we changed. things
Article
on-
8, we voted earlier on that. Yeah,
Article 8 doesn't have a recommendation.
no, and then we need to add, it says recommends, and that was the vote we just took on the budget committee. That was 5-0.
5-0, yes.
On Article 10, which I thought Steve was referring to stupidly, is the tax collector accept payment.
No, it's Article 12.
Any objections to that one, board?
Which one, where, sorry?
On 10, Article 10?
You mean
Stephanie?
9?
Not, 9, it's the same, well, geez. Let's take 9, 10, and 11 together, and we'll, because they're standards, and we'll take can I have a motion for those
Just
three?
repeat. We voted when we did the
I'm
motion.
just curious, how are you going to
One
vote on
second.
these?
Okay, 1 second. We voted earlier on the amendment
We already
change to
voted
the
on six.
charter in the select board meeting, and we voted 500.
So we're gonna vote now on 9, 9, 10, and 11.
Don't worry, I have the warrant
I
open.
was just trying to be a little funny because I was curious if you were actually planning on voting yes on these when you got to the ballot.
Right. Yeah,
Cross-reference.
yes. Yeah. I want to take 9, 10, and 11 as a batch on a motion.
I make a motion that we approve the language for Article 9, Article 10, and Article 11 for the warrant.
Second,
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? All's in favor?
Well, can I just ask?
Yes, of course.
Article 10.
Yes.
I'm sure that it is, that the town will not pay the person that has prepaid taxes any interest. Is that what that means?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Good question, though.
because obviously they're
That's
not
a
gonna
good
pay.
question,
Most,
Silly.
Obscure phrasing,
Yeah,
yes.
you
You don't
know.
know
I
who's,
had a
Right,
different
like you
word,
can't
so
pay
I
your taxes
stopped.
early and get money back.
Any further discussion? All's in favor?
That's, yeah.
5-0 on all three of those
five
projects.
zeros on Article 9, Article 10, and Article 11.
Right. Now, to Article 12, we had a discussion previously about modifying the last portion of it to where in the last three lines, there would be a period after the book reference in page 81.
So I,
No, is that right?
yes, I make a motion that we put a period after page 81, that the portion starting with shall be disposed of subject to the requirements of Article 10 of the town warrant from the annual town meeting held on June 10, 2008 be stricken
And also be stricken.
and also be stricken. And then the next sentence starts with the Apollotary property can only be disposed by a vote, disposed of needs to be added by a vote of the town meeting.
So moved. Second,
Okay, suppose, got it. Is that clear, Audra?
Yep.
Tom has a question.
Okay.
Hold on.
Yes, the audio here, can I get a clarification on why we're removing this language?
Say again, Tom?
We're removing this language because, Tom, can you hear me now? Sorry.
Yes.
So we're removing this language at the suggestion of Steve Gold because we're actually no longer using this June 10, 2008 Article 10. It's no longer applicable. So there's no need to keep it in the warrant. It's a legacy. But it does not affect the fact that for the Apollotary property, it still needs to go to a town vote. We're keeping that portion.
Yep, I see. Thank you, Sophie.
Sure. Allison, you had a comment, and Bill had a comment too, but Allison, you go first.
I mean, it is kind of a symbolic thing to do this because if the Article 10 was the guiding principles
Right.
that the town voted on, and they went through this long process of essentially determining that that property had to have some kind of economic development benefit to the town, subject to numerous conditions. And so, and it does get used sometimes as a reason to not just make it a park. I mean, at this point, I do think just having the fact that it has anything that happens with it has to go to a town meeting already does that and makes it kind of silly to be like, and at that town meeting, the voters must
Yeah,
also adhere to this other thing.
right.
It's
But
redundant,
we're not,
basically.
I mean, we're not saying that none of those things in the 7 guiding principles were good
Right,
things.
Bill, did you have a comment?
Yeah, just for clarity, I don't think you need the last sentence. If you stop with the period after the page 81, look back up where it says specifically excluding, this is in line 1, 2, 3,
Oh, yeah.
4, excluding the Apollo Tannery
Yeah.
property. So
Right.
it's excluded already. So if you stop at 81 period, you don't need anything after that.
So I'm amending my motion that we put a period after book 4083, page 81, period, and strike the rest of the paragraph.
I'll second that.
Well, wait, whoa.
Because the tannery is excluded already. That's what Bill is saying.
I'm trying to read in the previous, I don't see anything in I'm missing it probably, in the previous paragraph that says the Apollo Tannery property is exempted.
And the
It
fourth
does.
line
Fourth
down.
line,
Right in the middle.
excluding, okay, I agree. It's clear.
And is that the way that we would normally have to go through any other town property that the town we're going to dispose of that would be a town meeting vote?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah,
It's just already,
Yep.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm
yep.
just trying to think if that's.
Well,
going to be unclear to
it's
people.
taking, anything that's outside the purview of the select board is by a town vote.
I'm just trying to think of it from the perspective of somebody reading this, if it's going to be understood, but I think so, right?
Sort of belt and suspenders extra language in the last line that got
You don't
tucked
need-
onto
it-
one
it-
article by a floor motion
Right.
Ray,
6 years ago or something.
Want to
2008.
interject one thought. Is it going to be clear to the voters that that is still the rule when they come there and read that? Okay? And having been used to the thing that it's got to be a town warrant. Is it going to be clear to the voters?
yeah, I think it is, yeah, I think it
I
is.
think it's actually
What I was
clearer
saying, yeah.
because
Clear, it's more clear.
it's clearer because instead
Anyway,
of saying
so
excluding and
Sophie,
then.
let's modify your motion.
I did. I
Okay,
modified my motion.
was it second?
Stephanie seconded. We're waiting for a vote.
All those in favor? I'm a yes, 5-0. On Articles 13 and 14, I'm sorry, Bill?
I'm sorry to go backwards slightly, but I might as well do that now. Article 5, the mystery property, two things.
Yep,
I did look it up as well. The lot 000 has to change to 001, and
2 zeros and a 1.
it's 001. It's lot 1. It's hard to read when you look at the tax, the online data, because there's 17 zeros in the thing, but, and then the lot is approximately 300 and some odd, 330 feet by 600, so it's definitely in the 4.5 acre category and not the 9.5 acre category. So you could say in the note, this approximately 4.5 acre lot, and then it would give people a sense of what it is. Anyway, if we're going for accuracy, those two things.
Do we need to amend
Yeah, if
the
we're gonna-
vote?
Well, yeah, because we're suggesting different wording to the note I'm hearing. It says it's approximately 4.5 acre lot on
So
Rollins
moved.
Road. We already changed it to subject lot on
Approximate.
Rollins Road. Isn't that adequate, Bill? Just to-
Whatever you want. I just looked at the
I would just-
dimensions and it was
I
clear
would
to me.
suggest in Article 5, we just modify one of the revision to change the lot number from 000 to 001.
And the verbiage is going to say this.
I would leave that, we already moved to change the note to say the subject lot on Rollins Road.
The subject.
That's already been changed. I wouldn't change that again.
I
The
just
last
didn't
time we
write
gave
it.
property to
I just
Coastal
wanted
Mountain Land Trust, it was a lot more land.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
I do feel like people like a little bit more information rather than
Right.
just to know how big it is roughly,
Well, if you want to change the whole thing, give me the wording that we want to change it to, besides the lot 00.
roughly 4.5 acre lot on.
Approximately, you mean?
What?
Approximate.
Yeah. Okay. I don't know where I got, feels very rough. Maybe that's why.
Well,
Tom?
the math is easy. Why don't we just say 4.56 or 4.49? Why, this 4.5 acre lot or 4.45 acre lot on Rollins Road is bisected by the Goose River, et cetera.
4.5. Nobody's going to exactly.
We never really know exactly. So
No.
if we thought 9.5 was fine before, then
Right, okay.
stick with that format.
So are we going to say this 4.5 acre lot on Rollins Road and then the rest
So
of it?
moved with these changes.
And
I second.
I've heard 3 changes. Which one are we dealing with now?
So we're
Address.
doing, there's 2. We're changing the lot number to lot 001.
Yes,
And then in the note, it'll say this 4.5 acre lot
On Rollins.
on Rollins Road.
So moved per Audra's suggestion.
okay. Motion made is second. All those in favor?
Aye.
5-0. Thank you very much. Now, on to, I was talking about Articles 13 and 14, which are fairly standard articles, and I'd like to block those. One is disposal of property less than $3,000. The other one is to transfer amounts only not to exceed 10% of budget, blah, blah, blah. Could I have a motion to approve both those?
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Questions, discussion, all's in favor?
Aye.
Thanks, Tom. 5050. Now, Article 15 and 16 are both refer to of the budget article for the warrant. Excuse me, hitting my microphone. Article 15 is for the non-property tax revenues total of the just over 4.9 million. And the Budget Committee now, these notes, are we okay with having the Budget Committee recommended 900 and the Select Board recommended 410?
Yes, because that's what
Okay.
happened.
It's
Yes.
true.
Yeah, yeah.
Article 16, done.
But can I just make a?
Yes,
Yes, on the
yes.
16, so on note 15, we start by the Budget Committee's recommendation. On note 16, we start by the Select Board. I think we should have the same.
I agree.
So it's less confusing to voters. So we should start the note on Article 16 by the Budget Committee recommended.
Article 16 or 15?
16,
Yep, that makes sense.
because Budget Committee is the first column.
Oh, you're just reversing the two?
Yeah.
But you have no
For
comment,
consistency.
but you have no comment on 15?
No, I don't have any comment.
Okay, okay. But we have to approve it in a minute, but, so basically it will read, the budget recommended an amount of 11,291,900 by a vote of 900. The Select Board recommended acceptance of this article by a 410 vote, which is a difference of $107,405. The Select Board's recommendation will represent a net increase of 3.28% from the prior fiscal year.
So,
Is that what you're saying, Sophie?
yeah, that's what I'm saying. But why are we not having the Budget Committee's net increase as well? If we're going to give people the full picture of what the Budget Committee recommends.
Well, that's not really what they're voting on.
No.
That's the thing.
Okay.
No, they're voting on the Select Board recommended acceptance of the Select Board amount.
Can I?
What I mean is that the Select Board's recommendation represents a net increase in expenditures of 3.28% from the prior financial year.
Mhm.
We don't have the net increase for the Budget Committee.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying.
Oh.
That's what I'm saying.
Oh.
So if we're
Oh.
going to adopt the same form of saying what both,
Do we have that percent, Jody or
so that
Audra?
people have the full information.
7.13%
Jody, say again?
7.13% net increase for the Budget Committee's recommendation.
That can't,
That can't be.
No, it is because they. did
Because of
that,
the
they-
revenues.
Of the revenues, and they didn't have the
Okay.
unassigned,
So
the cushion. We added the cushion.
Again, clearly, please.
7.13%.
Thank you. That's the Budget Committee. Okay, I get it. I'm sorry. You're right, because their recommended income was only 4.5 million. It's 400,000, almost $350,000 different than the Select Board. Okay,
Thomas is up.
so again, let's go back to the wording of this note so we get it right.
Tom and Allison have their hand.
I think Tom has hand up.
Tom,
first.
your hand's up first.
Thank you. If the intention is to make this clearer, we are doing the opposite of that right now.
Yeah.
Because the revenue is not included in the Budget Committee's recommendation, because the Select Board actually, in some ways, has, I feel, a little more authority and purview to bring the revenue into the equation. It's so misleading. Does the chart, and I'm scrolling back and forth between this and the packet, does the chart show the revenues or just the expenses that's on the warrant there?
Article 15 is the revenues and 16 is expenses.
Correct.
Okay, let me check here. 15 is you say revenues and 16 is expenses?
Yes.
Correct.
Okay, so there is the full picture to include the
Yes.
budget.
Yes, it is, Tom. Yeah, it is. Yeah, but it is, the way we have budget committee first and then select board and budget committee and the next one, that's adds to a little confusion. And
Okay, what the voters are voting on is the select board's recommendation.
Yeah.
I appreciate the fact that we're bringing the budget committee's recommendation into the picture because it matters, but you're not clarifying this warrant by adding more data that seems to be contradictory to what Article 16 is saying.
Right. Because the thing is, people are going to look at this, so you look at this 11,291,
mhm.
and then the select board's number, which is clearly higher, and they assume, then when percentages are in there down below, you assume that the percentages are referring to the numbers that are above,
Correct,
not,
correct,
The net.
correct.
right? So you start to put in percentages that are each referring to different things.
Yeah.
I mean, really, we should be
Oh.
saying what the select board, what the budget committee recommended as a net to taxpayers versus what the select board, recommended as a net to taxpayers.
Before revenue.
Before the select board.
Well, the other all.
You're only giving part of the information. I mean, we're talking about transparency here and making sure people understand. The budget committee can also make a recommendation to the select board to use
And they did.
That's,
The thing is, they
yeah.
did, and they recommended using less.
that's correct.
And we're
That's
recommending
correct, yeah.
using more. So
Tom's statement was incorrect. They have the same access to variations as we do. There's no difference.
It's not Tom that was incorrect. It's that,
Who was?
I'm not saying anybody's necessarily incorrect. It's that if we're going to use 3.28% and 7%, it's this, the article asks about expenditures. And then the explanation brings in a revenue calculation
Well,
as well, and it's just,
why can't you just combine the two articles? And just have one article, the article that says total.
I think the charter states
you
that you
need to
have
have
to
the revenue
vote
for
on
the
them
upper.
separately.
I mean, a lot of people do want to know
There's no other way to do
how
it.
much more is the town spending. So that's a,
I think it's very important. We don't have to add the confusion comes into when the 7.13%, which is the budget committee. When you start adding that, they're going to look at the numbers above and say, well, that doesn't make sense because one of them is $100,000 less than the other one.
Hey, Bob,
Yes, ma'am.
we could just take that whole the select board recommends represents a net increase in expenditures of 3.28, just take that right out of the note.
Which one, Steph? I'm sorry.
The last, on the note on Article 16,
Yeah. The select
take
board.
from the select board's recommendation represents a net increase, just take that out.
the thing is, what the select board actually did was
I understand
recommend
that,
the
but what
budget
we're
to-
saying here is that the 3.28 is the 107,405.
Yeah, I mean, I essentially agree that that should
So
just be taken out.
adding that 7 point whatever,
7.13.
it doesn't match the numbers and it isn't clear. However, we got to those numbers isn't represented.
You're right.
So if we just took that out, or we're going to have to add a whole other explanation in to
Yeah,
include both.
Yeah, you're 100%
Yeah,
right.
I agree with
The
you.
only way to clarify it would be, apparently we have to have two articles, one for
Right.
revenue. Okay, but
And one
but
for
what we
expenses.
could, doesn't mean we couldn't repeat the revenue number on Article 16 and add the two together. And that would show the total differential between the select board and the budget committee. It's basically
Yeah, we
adding.
basically need more of a note on each, or or no note.
Well, I'm trying, I'm
Is it
wrestling with,
important to note the percentages?
I think it's important that people know the increase or the decrease in the budget. in the
Well, I think
expenses
it's
year
imp-
over year.
I think it's,
Not just expenses. I mean, I think there's that part of it, but I think a lot of people just want to know what the net increase to
The
taxpayers
taxpayers,
is.
yeah, exactly.
And providing them with that somehow.
it does say net increase.
It does
No,
say
it
net
says
increase.
net increase in expenditures.
Well, if it's a net increase in expenditure.
And they're going around in circles.
I think we're actually recommending more of an increase in expenditures, but also more
Revenue.
revenue.
That's correct.
Yes.
And so the net increase to taxpayers is less.
I'm just going to put it out there that I would like to vote on, what am I saying?
So you would,
I'm making a motion. Thank you. Jeepers creepers. Let's just
Go ahead, Stephanie.
making a motion that we accept the note as written for Article 16.
And
I actually
not
think maybe-
changing anything.
Just leave it as it is.
Yeah,
and
this
just
is,
see.
this, and honestly, this is the way it's been for a long
Well, like 2
time.
years, because we've been doing that.
Anyway,
in
well,
town
three
meetings, so.
years,
Hmm.
3 years. This will be the third.
I agree with Stephanie.
Yeah, I do too. I did, where, you know, if people have questions, we can clarify it during the public hearing again before the election if they need more clarification, if they have questions. We always encourage those, and I have to agree with, but do we have a second to Stephanie's first before my discussion? Do you have a second?
What's funny is that Stephanie actually voted against this, so,
Hi.
but it's now we're going to vote on her motion.
Well,
which-
Only on the note.
Oh, right.
I'm
only on the
Yeah,
note.
okay.
changing the vote on the budget. This is just to move this discussion forward.
We have a motion on the note to keep it as is. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 4-1. Okay, that's
You can write it next year when
right.
we have
Now,
time.
to these two articles, well, you know, let's take them separately. Let's take them, we didn't vote on Article 15. Do I have a motion for Article 15?
What are we making a motion for? We
On the
already
revenue,
voted.
the revenue line on the budget.
But we already voted.
We already voted.
Those are
Oh, we
already
did?
done.
Okay.
15 and 16 are done.
So that's 4-1.
4-1, 4-1.
Right, got it. Thank
We
you.
already voted 2 weeks ago.
That's correct. Thank you for reminding me. And that concludes the discussion of that item on the agenda. We have next I'm going to switch here because we have somebody waiting for a long time for the approval of a new taxi cab driver for Wolfie's Wheels, which is, I believe, is Ms. Rhonda Jean Gardner. Would you like to say hello since you've been here all evening? Thanks for your patience.
Gosh, I feel bad.
For the record, I've sat through longer.
So have we.
Yeah. Members of the select board, Audra, Mrs. Kelly. Chris Wolf, 47 Start Road. I'm here for Wolfie's Wheels. We'd like to get a new taxi cab driver approved. So without further ado, I will introduce Rhonda Gardner, and you may ask whatever you please.
Anything to say?
No, pleasure to meet you.
No? Well, I think your record is there. Board, do you have any questions of this item or motion?
Rhonda, are you related to Patty?
Pardon?
Are you related to Patty?
No,
Okay.
no, don't know a Patty.
Albert is her dad.
Out and about now.
Hmm.
Good, still no.
Welcome and thank you. And
Welcome and thank you, because
I
I
need you.
Yes, we do.
we,
Yeah, we do.
I do make a motion that we approve.
I second.
Motion made and seconded. Further discussion. All those in favor? 5-0. Thank you very much for you
Thank
and
you.
good luck.
Thank you, Chris.
Keep,
Thank you, Rhonda.
And keep rolling. Back to the second item, which is the appointment of the Historic Resources Committee alternate member, which I believe in the packet is, hope I get his name right, Chris Frieden? Frieden?
I am 85% sure that's the pronunciation, but
Oh, no.
it so could be wrong, and I apologize if it is wrong. But he's been coming to the meetings and adding a lot, and sometimes they do need, when they act as a demolition review board, it's, it is important to make sure that we have enough members on that committee because it's not strictly an advisory committee. It has a little bit of a semi-judicial
Yeah.
role a little bit. So we
Yeah.
do need to make sure we have that populated, and Chris seems to be,
Mhm.
he's recently moved here, but just eager to help and open-minded, and I don't,
Correct me, is this for a specific term?
It's the alternate, isn't it?
yeah, that's my weak area.
Okay, I'm not going to
Is
worry
the
about it.
only member that you need, or is
Mr.
there?
Please
I
will?
thought there was 2 open positions.
There may be, I do not know exactly what the update might be on the reorganization of some of the membership there, but I think this is the only,
Do you want to make the motion, or do you want me
this
to?
is the only candidate in there, right? Is this,
Yes.
is there somebody
Yeah,
else?
I
Okay,
just
I'm
was
not, yeah,
wondering if there
No,
was.
it's the only candidate.
I move that we appoint Chris Britton as an alternate to the Historic Resources Committee.
I'll second.
Second?
I second.
I'm sorry, Steph, I didn't hear you. I'm going kind of deaf. Anyway, motion made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
5-0. Thank you, Tom. Lastly, on our actions list is the board approval to list the Knox Mill commercial condominiums. They are C 101, 102, and 214 for sale with a real estate broker. This is just the approval to go to a broker. We don't have a specific broker at this point in time.
We do not.
And do we have to do, do we have the appraisal and the?
We do.
Okay.
And the appraisal, it's available for the select board for your information when you're making a decision, but we won't release it publicly
Okay.
until after the sale.
Okay.
If anyone's interested.
It's worth what someone will pay for it. So.
Right,
That's a good
right.
point.
It's just background information for you all to.
So do we have a motion to accept?
Well,
Go ahead.
I can do it in
Yes, no,
discussion
no,
if you want.
I'm sorry. What's up if you, about just related to the real estate broker?
Yep.
Oh,
Yep, I just, you sounded so disappointed, Bob.
no, I'm
Oh.
not going to die on, I'm going to follow
You had
sword in this
something more
one.
exciting to add to it.
No, I just wanted some clarification on, in the packet,
Uh-huh.
the last page,
Mhm.
these avoid businesses that produce or require, that section down, and then the compatible businesses for
Mhm.
consideration. What and why is
So-
that going to be part of the sale, the
This-
deed?
No. So
Good point.
this came from, yeah, I'll explain it. So this came from the Knox Mill Residential Condo Association or Condo Association.
This word, these,
All of this.
Okay.
Exact wording. So I thought it would be useful to pass on to the broker so that when they're interacting with any potential buyers, they
See.
know going into it
No dance
about
club.
the residential condo owners and what's created conflict in the past. And
but if they wanted to put a dance studio in there and got it passed, we're not saying here, we're not saying they can't.
exactly,
They
because
can't-
who knows? I mean, they
Right.
might come in, you might have like I don't know, somebody who owns a dance business
Right.
that has plans to soundproof or, who knows what they're going to do. So
That's all.
it wouldn't be a hard and fast rule about it. It's more of just, this is what the condo association has passed on as information about
I see.
what they think is compatible and what they think isn't based on their experience. Bob.
I'm blind on the right side. You got to switch seats. Go ahead, Allison.
I can't support passing this on to the real estate agent. I understand, of course, why the condo association would want all of these things, but what the town has voted on is what's allowed through the zoning ordinance. And I think there are many people in town who might want things that are, open late, for instance, and might be a little bit loud. I mean, the mill for years and years was very, very loud. We've had lots of loud things there over the years and people feel differently about it. So I really think if the condo association wants to have complete control over the type of business that goes in there, the type of owner, then they should buy it. And, you know, there is a condo association, so they have a mechanism for working things out with the other owners. And the owner that just, you know, had it before us, that wasn't able to pay their taxes, they were certainly under no obligation to look at any of these things. And I think as representatives of the town, we have an obligation really to just, for the most part, get a good price for it. And we could argue at the time when a sale actually comes forward, or, you know, possibility actually comes forward, I think the select board at that point will get to say whether or not to actually sell it. But I just don't, this looks like the tannery stuff to me. And we can't, this is something that we got, and we just need to pass it along, I think, in accordance with, you know, the zoning ordinance.
Good question. Is this document that Alison referring to, is it a requirement?
No, not at all.
So it's
Not at all.
not part of what we needed.
No,
to
you don't
sell.
need to,
Right.
you don't need to provide, you
It's like
can,
if the town ended up with a property next to me,
I agree.
it's like me saying, hey, only sell it to
Right.
this kind of.
You're right. I 100% agree with you. I just don't see this document as being cogent at this point in time.
sure, however you want to use it or not.
Just don't.
I mean, a buyer is going to know that
So
there are
let's,
going to be
let's,
strong
let's
opinions.
just, let's address the town to go ahead and list a real estate broker. We're not approving this item that's in our packet.
Mhm.
Okay?
Sounds
How are
good.
we going to choose the real estate?
That's up to the town manager.
Competitive process, but we'll, like I
The
said,
competitive
we'll,
process is the select board. I'm just asking a
No,
question. I'm not saying.
well, in this case, it's no different than her being authorized to get a civil engineer. She goes out.
I'm asking a question. I am not making I did not
What's
have
your
an opinion.
question?
What is the process going to be for choosing the real estate agent?
I haven't decided on an exact process yet.
Okay. Okay.
That's fine. I think if it's
Yeah.
helpful for us to be
Sure.
involved, she might decide that. If not,
Let
we're
us
going to do
know.
something that's
Yep.
fair and
Yep, yep.
in the best
And
interest
I
of the
mean,
town.
the two criteria I do think are important are that it's, you know, we first look to a broker in Camden
Uh-huh.
and also look to somebody who has commercial
Yeah.
experience.
I mean, interview a few people and see who's willing to do the work of really digging into all that complexity there, so that it doesn't become I just don't want it to become a burden on town staff to do a lot of legwork. I would hope that we would find a real estate agent that would be really confident that they could take on the majority of that, rather than just assign.
I think there's some that are going to self-withdraw because they're
Yeah.
just not interested in doing like a commercial
Yeah,
condo
I don't
situation.
doubt that.
Or working for the town, probably.
So do we have a motion then to authorize the town manager to develop the process to select the real estate broker for these properties?
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded for discussion. All's in
Can I
favor?
ask a question?
Yeah,
just
Tom,
for-
go ahead.
Just for clarification, are we taking off the avoid incompatible paragraphs at the end?
Correct.
Yes.
Yes, okay, thank you.
All's in favor?
Aye.
5-0. Thank you very much. On to Audrey, management reports.
For the first time in like a month and a half.
For the first time in like a month and a half.
Here comes our scroll.
Yeah. So as all of you probably know, the Pearl Street project has started. So not just the water company section, which is going from free to park, but also the installation of the new sewer line, which is going from Park Street to John Street. And so Eastwood, if you remember from the meetings we had, was the contractor that was selected to do that work, and they started and they're doing a great job. It's been, the residents of Pearl Street have been very engaged and good to work with. We had a meeting just to answer any questions and sort of give them an overview of the project.
Mhm.
Also for the the residents who are between Park and John Street, we explained that we're going to be cameraing all of their laterals. So we have a company that's doing that as
Right.
Eastwood goes along.
Right.
And so for every lateral that's broken, what we're going to be doing is the town is going to be paying to fix it because that was included in the bulk price for Eastwood. And then the residents will be reimbursing the town for that work because all the laterals need to be in good working condition, but
See,
having the
that's smart.
contractor individually come up with an agreement for every single homeowner is just not practical and it's going to slow everything down. So that's going to happen for all the laterals that are on that stretch of Pearl Street. And we recommended to the homeowners who are between Free Street and Park Street on Pearl that if they're interested in taking advantage of the price, that they should contact someone like Interstate Septic to get their lines
Oh.
cameraed so they can, understand if they have a broken lateral and if it needs to be fixed.
I see.
And they'll also be included with the other group
Right.
who's,
But if-
between Park and John and automatically going to be cameraed and get on that
If
list.
the contractor goes ahead and does work on a lateral and the owner doesn't agree with the price later?
Well, they don't really have a choice with the price and they're never going to get it. And it's
Oh,
been
I-
very clear to them.
I
that-
agree. I totally agree with you. I've just been there, done that,
Yeah.
whereas some owner says, I don't want to pay $5,000. But okay, that's good. That's the only way to do it, by
Yeah.
the way. Individually, it would take forever.
Right. So I think that that's a really good opportunity to get a lot of fresh water out of the system
Yeah,
because
yeah.
laterals are a huge contributor to
Yeah.
that.
Oh, yeah.
So
Good.
between the new sewer line and new laterals going in, I think it's going to be,
Great.
a really good,
Great.
I'm not saying it's going to fix all of our I&I problems,
Right,
not by
right,
any
right,
stretch
right,
of the
right.
imagination, but it's a huge undertaking.
So for half of the street, we're asking residents to pay suggesting that they may want to hire Interstate Septic to come and camera their laterals. And for the other half of the street, the town is going to do it for them.
Right, and the reason being is because the new sewer lines only going from Park to John. So those laterals will be able to stick a camera up them while everything is open versus the other side when it's going to have to go in from their house.
Outside.
I just can't believe we're not replacing that whole thing. When
Well,
was
I
the
mean,
last time we
just
cameraed?
replacing half of it was 165,000 over budget, and that other half is in good shape. So
How sure are we of that?
we did recently
Maybe we
camera
should-
that one.
Maybe we should have Interstate Septic camera.
But
that
another
too.
thing that we're going to do, because it is clay pipe, and even though it's in good condition, there's going to be a lot of compaction before the new course of pavement is put down, and that's when there's a risk of it vibrating and breaking.
And
So what we're
cracking,
going to
yeah.
do is, after the compaction takes place,
Camera it
we're going to
again.
hire a company to camera that line so that if we need to line it, because it is in good enough shape to be lined, unlike the other section, which was not, we'll be able to do that so that,
Cheaper too.
right, so that we won't be at risk
That's
of,
a good plan.
yeah.
Where do we stand on the program, I guess that we could call it, that was in last year's budget, where we were going to be proactively cameraing everything and it was going to be this public works wastewater collaboration and they were going to.
So it was a
Now we can
software
camera
issue
anything.
with a camera and just not enough time to sort of bird
Well,
dog the software company.
I think we need another I&I presentation on where.
Yeah, we were supposed to get another presentation from
Yeah, that's.
Ray
that's-
Pierce
yeah,
and because
correct.
it was so subpar the last time.
I think that's necessary.
Yeah, we lost a year because of a software
Yeah,
camera
understood.
issue.
But Ray Pierce can't figure that out. Anyway, I'll.
Oh, okay, but let's,
Yeah, a lot of people up on-
please continue with your,
So that's Pearl Street. We had a meeting about the Rawson Avenue Bridge project today.
Oh.
So DOT has split it into two projects. So one is to remove the bridge and then the other is to replace the bridge.
right,
And we hadn't received any of the plans for the bridge removal. However, because we have a utility, the wastewater utility, they're doing a utility coordination meeting. And so they sent the plans to Dave Bolstridge,
oh,
who sent them to us, which made the meeting that we had with Arel, who's the project manager from DOT, who's doing the replacement It made it easier to have that conversation. So we're just about at a stage now where we can move forward with designing the new bridge. And the challenge is going to be trying to coordinate the removal with the replacement, because they're two different project managers. They're using two different sources of funding. They don't necessarily, Arel had no idea what was going on with the other project. So our hope is that next year, so in 2024, starting in the spring, they can work on removing the bridge, and by fall, we'll have the new bridge to replace it.
Got it.
So that's the goal.
Okay.
And we had HR Consulting of Maine, I think is what they're called. It's a company that specializes in human resource management for municipalities. They came and did a training. So it's a mandatory training that we have every year on, just appropriate workplace behavior.
Yep.
And they're also reviewing our entire personnel policy and making recommendations. So that was very helpful. And they're also going to do additional training for supervisors. So those have been some big recent things happening.
Thank you. Select Board reports, Ms. McCullough.
Excuse me, I have to hop on another call. The timing just worked out.
Bill, thank you very much.
See y'all next time.
Talk to you soon.
Yes, can I just share my screen really? Can I just share my screen really quick here? Where is the share screen? So I misstated the dates of the roadside cleanup last time. I was off by one day, but we're doing I think it's the 7th annual, maybe 6th or 7th, I need to count, Earth Day roadside cleanup that we started after Leonard Luckner passed away. And that's going to be just the same as it has been. We'll meet at Hannaford between 8:30 and 9, both Friday and Saturday mornings, give everybody safety equipment and instructions and bags and whatever they need. There's also a spreadsheet that gives all the different road assignments. So if anybody wants to sign up for that ahead of time and get their supplies, you can just reach out to me, send me an email. You can also, for anybody who knows Marcy Annis, could reach out to her too. Rockport will be doing their cleanup the next weekend. After that, we share all the road signs and supplies and things like that. So, it's basically, we're going to try to get every section of road completed. People will be able to, sign up for a section of road and then leave the bag trash on the side of the road. And then we'll have other people going around and picking that up.
Perfect.
So if everybody could just help out a little bit, there's an event on Facebook. If you could just share that or send me an email and I can send you something that you could forward. But you could share that with like Rotary clubs, for instance, and share that out to.
Cool.
Sophie, I'm sure will especially share it out to her network of.
Do you know, is the Rotaract kids from the high school, do you know if they're helping this year?
Marcy's usually the one that talks to them, but I know that all of that, we're a little behind on the organizing part. So anything that you could do to reach out, and even if it's not Camden, or if it's not on those 2 days also, it's okay. If somebody wants to clean on a different day, we can give them trash pickers and whatever else. And I can leave stuff at my house for people to pick up. So
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, dear. Appreciate it. Sophie.
So the River Committee had a guest speaker today with Ken Gross, who gave a history of the river and the dams. And I encourage everyone to look at the video because it's super interesting to learn about the history. And they have a new newsletter out as well. And I'm going to be meeting with the Harbor Committee, who's a little bit in a holding pattern because they're ready to work. So I think we need to also think about tasking them with new things to
Okay.
do.
Thank
That's
you.
it.
Tom, we'll jump to you.
Thank you. The MIDC canceled their April meeting, so they'll be meeting in May. And the planning board had a meeting on April 5th about the new subdivision at 440 Belfast Road. I was not able to attend, and the meeting has yet to be posted on YouTube. But I will give a further update when the meeting is posted on YouTube at our next select board meeting.
Thank you, Tom. Stephanie?
So I am part of the EMS
Yep.
committee. They're meeting on the 27th. Anybody is welcome to join that fascinating discussion. I am also super excited because it's springtime. Everything in Camden is going to be beautified very soon. The garden club is all set to get their flowers out. Camden is Blooming will be happening. So the town is going to be beautiful very soon.
And clean.
And clean.
We'd like both, clean and beautiful. The only thing I would want to mention was I did take a look at the landing construction. They're doing a great job down there. That's really, really, really well done. I'm very impressed. It is, anybody hasn't seen it, go down and take a look at it. They've not only what you see have they improved, but also I saw the underground work they did. It's a tremendous improvement. It makes that whole thing somewhat more resilient than it was in the past. It's really well done.
It is like 6 inches higher too.
It
which
is.
I know
It
isn't.
is. It is. That's good. I mean, yeah, you got certain limits you got to deal with. I get that, but I think the quality construction is very well done. Good job in Public Works and town.
And the disaster
To
declaration
Harbor
came through.
Marine, they were great to work with, and they
Okay.
yeah they
Okay.
did a very good
Was
job.
that
and
was that a first for us with them?
I think we've used them for other
Oh, have
things
we?
before, but this is probably
Yeah,
the
I think
biggest.
the construction site was clean. Everything they did was great. They had a lot of
Yeah.
equipment down there.
And they worked so well with our crew,
They
who
did a
were
great job. They
fantastic.
really
So it
did.
was pretty seamless to go from one to the other.
Nice to see that happening.
Allison's like, you're cursing.
With that, and I would like to,
A motion that we adjourn?
no, I'd like a motion to leave the select board
Oh,
meeting
that's what I
and
meant.
adjourn an executive session under 1 MRS 405, parent 6A personnel.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All's in favor? Thank you, Tom, 5-0. So with that, Dan will have to shut down
Can we take a 3-minute break?
Yeah.
and then we'll have to just make sure Tom's the only one on Zoom.
Tom, we're going to take a 5-minute break.
Yes, we are.